Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone. How are you today? I hope all of you are doing well. Welcome to Year 3 English PDPR lesson. Today we are going to focus on speaking skill with the topic of superlative adjectives in the world around us unit of your Get Smart Plus 3 book. Alright, before we start our lesson today, let us look at the learning objectives for today's lesson. Number 1, by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to describe family members using 7 suitable superlative adjectives. Number 2, by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to play a board game by answering 10 questions correctly. How about the success criteria for today's lesson? What you can do in today's lesson to achieve the learning objectives for today's lesson. Let us look at the success criteria for today's lesson. Number 1, you can review adjectives that you have learned in the previous lesson. Number 2, you can carry out a family survey using 7 superlative adjectives. And number 3, you can play a board game and answer 10 questions. Are you all ready for the lesson today? Let us begin our lesson today by reviewing adjectives you have learned in the previous lesson. Let us look at it one by one. Number 1. Which is the smallest planet? The answer is, it's Mercury. Remember, we add the word the before the adjective and we add on est at the end of the adjective to show that is the superlative adjective to compare more than 2 things. Again, here the smallest is the superlative adjective. Number 2. Which is the densest planet? Do you still remember? It's Earth. Again, we put the word the before the adjective and we add on est at the end of the adjective to show that is superlative adjective and to compare between more than 2 things. Here, the densest is the superlative adjective. Next, which are the coldest planets? They are Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Here, we put the word the before the adjective and we put est at the end of the adjective to show that is the superlative, the coldest, and to compare between more than 2 things. And the last one, which is the biggest planet? The answer is, it's Jupiter. Here, again, we put the word the before the adjective and we add on est at the end of the adjective to show that is the superlative adjective and to compare between more than 2 things. Again, here, the biggest is the superlative adjective. Can you please look at this picture of a family? Let me tell you, here, Puan Nazrima is the oldest. The oldest is the superlative adjective for the adjective old. And Hanim is the youngest. The youngest is the superlative adjective for the adjective young. How about your family members? Let us try to carry out a family survey using these 7 superlative adjectives. The name of the family survey is Who's the Tallest? You have to draw a table like this, whereby in the first column on your left, you have to write down 7 superlative adjectives, which started with the tallest, the shortest, the thinnest, the youngest, the oldest, the strongest, and the fastest. And then on the first row of your table, you have to write down name of family members. So what you have to do is that you have to carry out a family survey by asking your family members using the superlative forms in the table. And then you have to write down their names in the spaces accordingly. Let me show you the example. Let's say you ask your family member, who's the tallest? Let us look at this family picture one more time. So, the answer is, Hanan is the tallest. You have to write down Hanan in the second row. Next, the second superlative adjective. Let's say you ask your family member, who's the shortest? Here in this family picture, Hanim is the shortest. So, you have to write down in the third row, the shortest, Hanim. Next question or next superlative adjective, who's the thinnest? Here, the answer is Hanis is the thinnest. So, you have to write down Hanis in the fourth row in the table. That is the thinnest. Next superlative adjective, the youngest. Let's say you ask your family member, who's the youngest? Here in this picture, the answer is Hanim is the youngest. You have to write down Hanim in the fifth row, the youngest. Next superlative adjective, the oldest. Who's the oldest? The answer is Puan Nazrima is the oldest. So you have to write down Puan Nazrima in the sixth row, the oldest. Next superlative adjective, the strongest. So you have to ask your family member, who's the strongest? Here in this picture, the answer is Husna is the strongest. So you have to write down in the seventh row, Husna, the strongest. Next, the last superlative adjective is the fastest. You have to ask your family member, who's the fastest? The answer is Hanan is the fastest. Please write down Hanan in the last row, the fastest. Once you have done the family survey, you have to describe your family members using the table that you have completed. Let me show you the example. Husna's second younger sister is the tallest and the fastest in her family. Her youngest sister is the shortest. Husna is the strongest. Her mother is the oldest. What I want you to do now is that I want you to look at the board game in activity number 1 on page 100 of your Get Smart Plus 3 book. Let me explain to you how to play this board game, whereby you may play this game with your family members. The first person tosses a coin or a dice to see how many spaces to move forward. You have to toss a coin or a dice. For example, you toss a coin and you will see if the coin shows heads, you have to move 1 space. But if the coin shows tails, you have to move forward 2 spaces. This is the coin if you use the coin. But if you use a dice, you have to look at the number showed on the dice when the dice stop after you toss it. Let's say after you toss the dice and the dice stops, the number showed on the dice is number 3. So you have to move forward 3 spaces to the space number 3. If your game piece lands on a space, you have to answer the questions written on that space. Here, let's say, or for example, you toss the dice. When the dice stops, the number showed on the dice is number 3. So, you have to move forward 3 spaces. Now, your counter is in the space number 3 space. You have to answer the question, which is scarier, shark or dolphin? If you answer the question correctly, that is shark, you may stay in the space. But if your answer is wrong, let's say you answer it dolphin, so you have to move back 1 space. The pictures on some of the spaces help you to find the answers to the questions. The first person to reach the end of the game is the winner. Let us try to answer these 10 questions on the board game. Space number 1. Which is faster? Horse or cheetah? The answer is cheetah. Space number 2. Which is smaller? Blue whale or elephant? The answer is elephant. Space number 3. Which is scarier? Shark or dolphin? The answer is shark. Space number 4. Who's the youngest? The answer is John. Space number 5. Which is the biggest planet? The answer is it's Jupiter. Space number 6. Which planet is the closest to Earth? The answer is it's Mercury. Space number 7. Which is stronger? Lion or cat? The answer is lion. Space number 8. Who's the oldest? The answer is Fred. Space number 9. Who's the happiest? The answer is Mike. And the last one, space number 10. Which planets are the coldest? The answer, they are Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And the last one, space number 10. Which are the coldest planets? They are Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. That's the end of today's lesson. Hope to see you in the next lesson. See you then. Bye-bye.